I'm Vinny Politan. The subject of my investigation is a case that has TikTokers talking about one of their own. Sarah Patrick was very public on social media. Then her mother and stepfather were shot and killed inside their home. What happened next is what has everyone talking. Here's the story. Sarah Patrick, just 16 years old when the unthinkable occurred, now stands at the center of a chilling mystery. On a February morning, her 5-year-old sister discovered the bodies of Kristen and James Brock, both shot in their bed. Sarah placed the 911 call and publicly mourned online, posting tearful TikToks and delivering a haunting eulogy that ended with the words, "I'm sorry." But investigators say a mountain of physical and digital evidence paints a darker picture. Sarah is charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault and will be tried as an adult. Her social media activity, including outreach to true crime TikTok influencers, suggesting sensational attention to the case, has deepened suspicions. With no motive yet revealed, the community reels, and the tragedy leaves the haunting question: who was this girl behind the eulogy? This story, she's 16 years old. She's at home, mom, stepdad, her parents, sleeping in her bed, and her little sister. And the parents are shot and killed. Middle of the night. That's what the story is, and are found by the little sister. And it's Sarah Patrick who calls 911. Now, a big part of this story is what has transpired in social media, and it's really because of what the defendant, Sarah Patrick, has done on social media. She had a presence before any of this happened, but then afterwards, she started posting things, and a lot of people were noticing them and talking about them. Let's take a look at some of those post-murder postings that were done. This was one of her. Please send prayers for healing, for a break from everything. I'm so tired. I should probably delete it later. And you can see her crying there. She doesn't talk in any of these. There's music. Sometimes she mouths along, and sometimes it's just a picture of her. Here she writes, "Life's hard, but at least I have my mom." The next one, "It hasn't hit yet that they're actually gone yet." And think about this, if someone is posting this stuff, it's gonna garner a reaction. You're gonna feel bad for this young girl. She's lost her parents. What's going on? You were in the house. How did this horror take place? Let's take a look at the next one. "I know how it feels to have people saying the worst lies about you at your worst." So now she's reacting to the reactions to her as well. So there seems to be, she's really tied into what is happening on social media, not just posting, but reading what people are saying about her posts. And I get it, everyone does that, but this is in a moment where she's grieving this horrific loss. Here's another caption from another TikTok. "I'll never forget her last time speaking to me. She came into my room when I was in bed watching a show, and she told me good night in a deep voice, acting silly. I should have hugged her." I'm Vinny Politan. We continue our investigation of the teenage girl from Georgia on social media who is now accused of shooting her parents while they slept and then posting about the tragedy. Here's the story. Sarah Patrick, a grief-stricken teenager once known for her tearful TikToks, has become the face of an alleged chilling betrayal. On February 20th, 2025, her 5-year-old half-sister found her mother, Kristen Brock, and stepfather, James Brock, shot dead in their Carrollton, Georgia home. Sarah called 911, but the tears unspooled across social media soon drew suspicion. Prosecutors now say a mountain of physical and digital evidence, including her haunting funeral eulogy and strategic TikTok outreach, paints a darker picture. In the weeks after the tragedy, she messaged true crime influencers insisting the case would be, quote, a really big hit. With no motive yet established, law enforcement remains tight-lipped as they prepare to try her as an adult, charged with 2 counts of murder and aggravated assault. A twist that turned a grieving daughter into a suspect and a community's sorrow into suspicion. So, Sarah Patrick, I mean, this was a family. It was a blended family. Her parents were split, but each of them had married, and they seemed to get along pretty well. And there's brothers, there's sisters, there's stepbrothers and stepsisters. I mean, this is a family, and it seems like everything is pretty normal, right? There's not outrageous behavior that's alleged anywhere along any of this. Like, it seems pretty normal. Now, Cody Thomas went and spoke with Sarah's grandfather, who is also the father of Sarah's mother, right? So he's the grandfather on the maternal side. And it's interesting when you talk to him about Sarah, because, you know, it's his daughter whose life was taken, and it's his granddaughter who's accused. So what he thinks about the situation is pretty insightful, potentially insightful, about the family dynamics. Take a listen.
What are the feelings? What are the emotions? And I understand that you're standing by her side. You believe she's innocent.
Oh, I mean, I'm just in total shock. I mean, because she, you know, first of all, the length of time that's passed and the fact that they arrested her without any evidence that I know of. Everything seems circumstantial, and I think they were just desperate to arrest someone and to try and, because the case was open for months. A lot of investigation. I know they tried hard to find the murder weapon. They tried hard to find who was involved. They investigated a lot of people. And for them to charge Sarah without, you know, and I'll say this, the investigator told me the day they issued the warrant, when I asked him, I said, well, what proof why did you pick on Sarah? He said, well, she's the only one who could have done it. And that's a quote. But and that's, you know, to me, that's not enough proof to throw a 17-year-old girl in jail. And you take a 100-pound girl and you hand her a 9mm pistol and you ask her to fire it, who doesn't have a lot of, I mean, I don't know if Sarah had ever shot a gun before. I mean, you know, she was here, and whenever we shot guns, they were rifles. I never saw her shoot a pistol. But I just can't imagine, you know, the accuracy that gun had in her hands. It just, I don't think it could happen.
So Grandpa's not holding back, right? I mean, he's telling you exactly his thoughts on all of this. Extremely skeptical. But there's other family members who are speaking. That brings us to the next question in our investigation. What is Sarah Patrick's family saying about the murder charges? We heard from Grandpa. Let's get some more insight. Here to help us answer that question, psychotherapist, CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey, and retired Nassau County Lieutenant Mike Gould. Mike, great to see you. Thanks for joining us as well. Mike, first, I just want to get your reaction to what he said in quoting what he was told at the time the warrant is issued for the arrest of his granddaughter. She's the only one that could have done it. That can't be the conclusion, right? That of the evidence, meaning like, well, we don't have evidence that she did it, but she's the only one who could have done it. There would have to be more, wouldn't there? Arguably?
Yeah, Vinny. You know, this is baffling, this case, the duration of the time to the arrest, and then the amount of time she's incarcerated. I'll be honest with you, in lack of any other spokesperson for the defense, the grandfather sounded like a defense attorney. He was articulate, and he's asking very compelling questions. You know, regardless of the guilt or innocence, these are things that have to be explored. So when I think about this and what we have now, these circumstantial, did she cry? She said she was sorry. I can't tell you the number of times that I saw grieving or being at eulogies of grieving parents, and they sometimes were laughing. So I don't think we should use this as a metric to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So I think there's a lot that the law enforcement is withholding. I don't know why. They're not giving their theory. But there's not an alternate theory either. So the grandfather's as good as anyone else so far in this case, his opinion.
Absolutely. Now, Sarah Patrick's father, right? Daniel Patrick spoke with Newsweek about the charges, and he responded to the backlash that she's getting on social media. Let's take a listen.
I know 100% in my heart that Sarah's innocent. She's a typical 17-year-old that, you know, lived like a teenager, and she would never do this. As a father, this has been one of the most hurtful things in my life. I'm sorry, but it's just hard, you know?
Okay, Dr. Janie Lacey, what are your thoughts so far about what we're hearing from Grandpa and from her dad?
Well, as we're hearing, the family's response has been notably divided, but predominantly supportive. And when I'm listening to Grandpa and her biological father, they really seem real strong about her innocence. And to me, that would be whatever their relationship and their bond and what they knew of her before, that they truly believe that she is innocent. And, you know, I find it also particularly significant in Dennis's, the grandpa's, one of his interviews where he mentioned about the stepdad's criminal history may have played a part in his death, suggesting that the family may believe someone from his past was responsible. So these narratives are what we call cognitive dissonance. So they're going to have to line up a narrative or a story that goes along with them believing that Sarah was innocent. So their heartfelt interviews tells me that they really believe that.
Now, WJCL in Savannah spoke with Kristen Dowda, a family member, I believe, from the stepfather's side, who said she had suspicions about Sarah Patrick.
Obviously, we were glad that, you know, someone was finally being held accountable for this. And we, of course, had our suspicions. So it wasn't that shocking. Nothing that raised an alarm to me, just a typical teenage girl. But Jamie had told us multiple times that Sarah was not who we thought she was. You don't see what I see. You don't live in the home with her.
Yeah, Michael, that might be... And that's going to be difficult, perhaps, to ascertain what was going on in the dynamic between Sarah and her mom, Sarah and her stepfather, because mom and stepdad are gone. So they're not here to tell their story. How do investigators try to figure out if there was some sort of dynamic inside the household if the parents from the household are gone?
Yeah, Vinny, sure. So I think digital, I mean, you know, texting, there's got to be there's got to be much more here. And as I said earlier, law enforcement is obviously withholding information. Sometimes that's a very good thing. I don't know at this point why. But text message, friendships, but what we have now is suspicion. Suspicion is a far cry from probable cause. So again, I'm baffled by the fact that I know that this police spokesperson came out. She seemed very confident. She said there's pretty much implied there's a lot she's got. She didn't say specifically what it was, so it leaves everybody hanging. The other thing is, and I could be missed this part, but does she have a defense attorney? She's been in jail for a month, so she's got to be represented by the defense counsel. And what's their play on all this? What's their, as I said earlier, their alternate theory? So there's a lot that can be gleaned from more interviews with all of these parties, but you have the parents or the grandparent saying, she's fine. She's teenagers are, they're addicted to the social media. And that's almost our norm in our society now, whether it's right or wrong.
All right. Big thanks to Dr. Janie Lacey. Mike is going to stick around. Still to come, who else could have done it?
Mountains of evidence has gotten us through here today. Lots of processing, lots of working with our law enforcement partners to get us to where we are today, that honed in on her as a suspect.
People are assuming her guilt, and she's innocent until proven guilty. And there are people that are assuming that she's guilty and making comments online that are totally uncalled for.
When covering a case like this, where we're talking about a murder taking place inside a home, to me it's important to get down there to see the neighborhood, to see where this house was, to get a better understanding for what the crime scene was like. Cody Thomas did just that and took a walk around the neighborhood where this murder took place.
We're out here now in small town Carrollton, Georgia, where the home where these crimes occurred took place. Now, if you look down this street, this is Tyus Carrollton Road out here. You see it's not that busy of a street, but it is kind of a main freeway. Now, what you don't see on this street, you see these wooden poles, but what you don't see are security cameras on these poles, which leads us back to that question. If Sarah Grace Patrick, the teenager who lived in this home, did not commit these murders, then who did? And if they did, they would have had to have some kind of getaway plan down this street. And if they did, no cameras would have picked them up, unless you see the neighbor's house. There's one here over my shoulder. There's a neighbor right here across the street. There's a neighbor across over there on those acres of land. Unless they had some sort of Ring doorbell footage, some Ring camera surveillance, or any kind of home security surveillance, that is the only footage that would have picked up anyone leaving that February night. Now, back to the neighbors. They're sitting here. You see, this is not your traditional neighborhood. These houses are spread apart. They're across the street. They're acres apart. We do know multiple shots were shot in the house that night. Who could have heard those shots? And they were shot around 1:30, 1:40 in the morning. So if these neighbors were in a deep sleep, they may not have heard those shots unless, again, they have Ring camera footage that could have picked up the sound of those gunshots in this house where the crimes occurred. But again, this is out here in Carrollton, Georgia, where everything went down. Sarah Grace Patrick now facing double murder charges in those two shootings.
All right, Cody's look at the neighborhood brings us to the next question in our investigation. And Cody brought this up. Who else could have done it? Who else could have done it? Here to help with our investigation, Rick King and Mike Gould. All right, guys, I want you to take a look at this. We have some drone footage to give you a better idea of what this neighborhood is like. Let's take a look at that drone footage that we shot so you can kind of see how far back the house is set. You see the long driveway getting in there. Now we go on top, giving you just an idea of, you're in rural. It's not completely rural. I mean, there's a lot of people who live in this area, but things are spread apart, as you can see from some of our aerial footage. So Rick, I'll start with you on this question. Who else could have done it here? Where else should they be looking? Where else do you think they did look?
So I think that what the lieutenant said earlier, and what that's been the kind of commentary all night, has been about, they got to start looking in the digital evidence, because that's going to tell you where I think this case is eventually going to go. Who she talked to, who talked to her, who the parents were talking to, because there was some sort of information. I think the grandfather said something about he used to be affiliated with a motorcycle gang, and maybe it was something to do with that. But all that's going to come out of, again, digital forensic evidence from his phone, or phones from the mom, or phones from Sarah Grace. So somewhere in there will be the answer. Right now, it's anybody's guess.
All right, let's take a listen to Sarah's grandfather speaking with Cody about this very question.
I say that the police have a number of suspects. They have one in particular that I can't go into detail, but I know that they have, they have looked at this person, and I hope that their investigation turns up something positive. Mm-hmm. I'm going to still stand behind Sarah's innocence.
All right, Mike, what do you read into that? Obviously, he's the father of the victim, right? It was his daughter who was shot, so they're feeding him some information, but he's also the grandfather of the suspect. So how much information do you think he's getting, and do you think the investigation continues?
Absolutely. I think it has to continue because, again, you know, they called 911. Did she have gunshot residue on her hand, as he said earlier? So he mentioned the fact that it was a 9mm weapon. He said that. So where's the gunshot residue? The police responded right away, I'm assuming. There's a lot that we don't know. And that's the fact. Did she have a boyfriend? Did she tell her boyfriend that she was being abused? Now this point about outlaw biker gang, or biker gang for that matter. So again, I'm just surprised how definite the spokesperson for the police department is coming out so strong and confident without offering any theory. A motive isn't necessary, obviously, but we'd like to have people need a little bit more.
And in most cases, we get
this is months.
Yeah, in most cases, there's a little bit of information that comes out, right? There's either a press conference or there's some way to communicate that so-and-so was arrested, and we know a little bit about it. That has not happened here, but this may be the reason why. Take a listen to the spokesperson for law enforcement talking about this issue. That obviously was not it. Do we have it? Here we go. Take a look.
We have processed digital evidence, forensic evidence, DNA evidence, everything that we can to try to make a case and hold the right person accountable. We believe there absolutely positively could be other individuals involved, and we have been speaking with Sarah over the past couple of days and hoping to shed more light on that aspect of this crime.
Okay, so that's interesting. So the defense. How about that, Rick? How about that? It seems like Sarah was speaking at some point as well. What does that tell you?
So the defense lawyer in me says, and therein lies the problem. Says Sarah should have had a lawyer is the first thing. However, that being said, I think what's interesting to me is she talked about DNA evidence, and I don't know unless there's somebody on some strange DNA in the house, because you'd expect. I mean, clearly you'd expect Sarah's DNA to be there. You're going to expect the families to be there, but maybe there's someone on the outside and they've linked that, and that forensically somehow ties with Sarah. And it's hard. Right now, we're all speculating because we just don't know. They're just not giving us enough.
Yeah. Mike, how about the fact that the suspect, the defendant now, was cooperating to some extent?
Right, and that's been what we heard. I don't know why she's not why isn't there a defense attorney advocating for her publicly, coming out and saying this is just a bunch of hogwash? I think that there's going to be some kind of co-conspirator in this. I mean, I can only infer from what the spokesperson said that it's absolutely, positively, maybe someone else involved. So it sounded strong, but at the end it was a maybe. So I think we're going to find that there was someone else involved. As I said, maybe an ex-boyfriend, maybe a friend, and for reasons God knows what a 16-year-old would concoct in their head for social media purposes, I don't know. And I'm not saying she's not involved. I'm just saying there's a long way from suspicion to beyond a reasonable doubt.
That is it. Yeah, we know that is a long, long road. All right, Rick King, great to see you. Thank you. Mike Gould, always a pleasure. Now, not a ton of evidence has been made public yet. We've been talking about it all night, but prosecutors say they have the goods to prove that Sarah Patrick is a cold-blooded teen killer. But some are wondering if the evidence is actually there. If it's not, prosecutors will likely need to show the jury a motive if they don't have the evidence to get the conviction. But I'm still left with this question. Why would she do it? I'm Vinny Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.